vacation. Mr. Board Secretary, this meeting been advertised in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act.
Yes, it has, Mr. McEnroe.
Everybody please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Board Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Balcom. Here. Mrs. Bacco.
Here.
Mr. Bishara.
Here.
Mrs. Bruno Riccuya.
Yeah, here.
Mr. Sayak.
Here.
Mrs. Esposito.
Here.
Mr. Lembo.
Here.
Mrs. Pratt.
Here.
And Mr. McEnroe.
Present. Dr. Alfano. Yes, understand that we have a great presentation this evening.
Thank you, President McEnroe. Would Mr. McEnroe please come up, and Ms. Bacco? I ask that the high school administration come up as well. Come on up. Clara. Mr. Preston, yes, that means you too. Mr. Brown. This is probably the favorite part of the year, where we honor our top 10 students and the salutatorian, the valedictorian for their tremendous year academically and for all 4 years. So I know Mr. McEnroe would like to say a few words before we get started in regard to the same thing. But again, I'd like to congratulate all the parents, because I know without you guys, usually this type of situation doesn't happen. And I'm very proud of everybody, and you should be very proud of your son or daughter.
Where are the top 10 students? Raise your hands. Everybody needs to take a look at them. Those are the smartest kids in the school. They will be coming up to get the presentation. I'll tell you, it's cool to be smart. And as far as the board president, this is probably my most favorite presentation of the year. And where are the parents of the top 10 students? Raise your hands. Because I want to congratulate you. You know, as parents, I've always said this when I talk to parents. You know, as parents, we're not judged by our accomplishments, but by the accomplishments of our children. So I want to congratulate you, and at this time, I'm going to have Ms. Bacco from the Board of Ed. She's going to make the presentations of the certificates.
Well, first I'll do is I'll call alphabetically the top 10 students, and we'll save the salutatorian and the valedictorian for the end. So the first, appropriately enough, is Kristen Bacco. Congratulations, Kristen. Why, you need a piece of paper? I need it. Hold on, I need it.
You need to take a picture. You need to take a
Wow.
picture. You're not going anywhere.
Wow, that's a good picture.
Congratulations. Great job. Stay up here. Stay up here because we're going to get a group of everybody.
Congratulations.
Actually,
Thank you. Sanjana Farouk.
she's not here.
She's not here. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bacco. You're helping me out. Brianna Hitai.
Great job. Get in between.
Wait up here. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, I can handle this one. Shannon McKenna.
Congratulations. Got a sophisticated system.
Thanks.
Back here.
Roland Patel. Dana Quinn. Did a great job on the Pledge of Allegiance the other day.
Sure, if you want to come up and take a picture?
Yeah, anybody who wants to come up and take a picture, this is like for real, don't worry about it. You guys can come up and take pictures of them up there as
You're
well.
going to get a group picture.
Eric Sherman?
Good job, Eric. Great job.
I don't need you talking. Nicholas Amrata.
Great job, Nick.
For the salutatorian, Jamie John.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you fit right in. Good job. And finally, this is a tremendous feat, and you know I was in the triple digits in high school, so Stephen Bouchon. Bouchon, I'm sorry. He is the valedictorian. Mr. McEnroe, can you take a picture
Well,
of...
what I'd like to do is have the top 10 just come right over here with the high school administration. Jim,
Fine, guys, in the middle, we're going to take a snapshot.
I'll get one with the kids and then I'll get the guys.
Hey,
Guys.
you guys go in the middle.
Students, top 10? Yes. Flag in the background?
Yeah,
So why don't you-
Video, move out of the way. We want to get a good picture.
You guys already ready, right? Almost. Okay, just kind of move around this way a little bit. Keep going, keep going, keep going. We'll get you in the middle of the flag. Keep going. Kristen, a little bit more. Okay. Hi. Hi.
You can make us a joke, because I'm nervous.
Okay, here we go.
Awesome job. Smile. Wait a second. Why don't you move over so that it's like...
Parents, want to come?
Does that make sense or what? Why don't you move over there? Get on that side. There you go. That's thank God they're on top 10. Congratulations. Let's give them a standing ovation. Great job. Awesome job. Awesome job. So they can't move yet, we're still taking pictures. Guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys are awesome. God bless. Enjoy. We have one more presentation, and this young lady placed first in the state art competition. First in the state art competition in the state. She will be recognized this Friday at the State House, and her name is, and I hope I don't butcher this, Adelaide Ajima. Adelaide, are you here? Come on up. Tell us to take your picture too. Congratulations. She's going to be honored at the State House. You want to just tell us a little bit about that?
What?
Can you tell us a little bit about what that's all about?
It was a calendar competition, and you were supposed to draw something that you do with your family that reminds you of home. and I dream me and my father building things. Like,
And you won first place.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Awesome job. Good job. This board is saying some fabulous. Another great student. Good job, man. Thank you very much. Now you guys can sit down. That concludes my show.
Okay, moving along, on the correspondence for the board members, everybody should have received the monthly technology work order reports and the monthly maintenance work order reports. Any questions, comments on those? The minutes, everybody should have received the minutes from April 13th and the reorganization meeting of April 27th. Anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes? If not, I'll take a motion to file and accept.
So moved. Second.
Any roll call vote?
Mr. Falcon.
Abstain on 13. Yes on 22.
Mrs. Baxter.
yes.
Mr. Bishada.
Yes.
Mrs. Bruno Riccuya.
I'll abstain on the 13th, yes on the 27th.
Mr. Syak.
Yes.
Mrs. Esposito.
Yes.
Mr. Lembo.
Yes.
Mrs. Tran.
Yes.
And Mr. McEnany.
Yes. Our student council representative, Ms. Brittany Nowicki.
There's not much to report for our student council, but we finished up our Say No to Drugs program, which is our most successful activity. And right now, we're just getting ready for next year's board to take place. And
When did the elections take place? They already have?
they took place, I think, 2 months ago, but now they're like getting into their jobs and
So your replacement's been named
yes,
and you trained them?
I'm telling them what's going on. And we just took our trip to Six Flags, so we're wrapping up the year.
Very good.
Thank you.
It's an exciting time of the year, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. We appreciate all you've done on the board since you've been in this position. Thank you. Parent involvement representative, Ms. Charlene Newman, how are we?
How are you?
Thank you for asking.
Our last parent involvement council meeting was May 1st, and I also believe that was our last meeting, because I don't show date for June. We talked about two things, basically. We talked about the budget defeat, that it was in the hands of the borough at this point, that they would decide what amount it was, and we basically couldn't discuss much more about it because we were waiting at that point for an amount. The main thing we went over was the CUSAC report, the New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, which Ms. Sutherland brought for us, and it was about this thick. And it's a very, very detailed report. We didn't realize how detailed it was. That actually is the Department of Education's monitoring and evaluation of public schools. And it combines state and federal regulations, and it ranks you on a continuum of how you did, with a minimum to pass of 80%. And obviously, Sayreville passed with flying colors. We had 100% in operations management, 93% in both instruction, program, and personnel, and 89% in fiscal management and governance. So it was very impressive. Once again, it was showing that Sayreville, you know, we always managed to do more with less, and we were far above passing on these. We were actually ranked a high-performing school district by the New Jersey Department of Education.
Yes, we were.
And that's about what we did.
Thank you. Mr. Lembo. District Highway, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations to the small school with a big heart. Thanks to the generous hearts of the Wilson Elementary School students and staff, many charitable causes and organizations were the recipients of their collective generosity. Over $9,898 were collected to aid needy groups. The totals are as follows: Pennies for Patients, $2,531. Patient Relief, $1,700. St. Jude's Mathathon, $3,387. And Jump Rope for Heart, $2,280. The response of the Wilson families certainly portrays caring, an important character trait that is one of the essential pillars of character development. As always, Wilson School reaches out to aid children and their families who are suffering hardships. They continue to extend helping hands and hearts to illustrate how much they care. Well done. Activities abound at Arleth in April. During the month of April, Arleth Elementary School kept very busy. The faculty and staff worked very hard to spread autism awareness during the month. Students were taught lessons about autism and other disabilities and got a chance to walk in their shoes, along with classroom activities to raise awareness. The Arleth school family bagged groceries at ShopRite while putting autism fact sheets into the shoppers' bags. On Wednesday the 21st, the Arlitt Drama Club presented Schoolhouse Rock Jr. Students were equipped with microphones and enjoyed having a professional sound system to enhance their production. The two performances, one for the school and one for the families and friends, really rocked the Arlitt School. Following the January 12th earthquake in Haiti, the families of Eisenhower School decided they needed to do something to help the families of Haiti. They soon discovered a cause named Souls for Souls, which provides shoes to underprivileged countries. Outreach began and a goal of 250 to 300 shoes was set. Several weeks later, the students of Eisenhower had collected an amazing 562 pairs of shoes. The PTO delivered the shoes to Foot Solutions in Chester, New Jersey, who then shipped them directly to the relief efforts in Haiti. Hats off to the families of Eisenhower School. The Sayreville schools just keep giving back, and we are so proud of them. The Middlesex County Food Organization and Outreach Distribution Services has offered their thanks and congratulations to our students for their amazing contribution to the 2010 school food drive. This year, a total of 53 tons of food was collected from the 158 participating schools through the county. The Sayreville School District collected 3,300 pounds of food. We can hold our heads high for the district's contribution to feeding the hungry. Thank you to the Sayreville students and their families. Congratulations to the following students who were chosen as National Merit Scholarship finalists. They will continue on in the competition for approximately 8,200 National Merit Scholarships that will be awarded in 2011. Good luck to Teresa Hyslop, Pooja Parikh, and Anuj Talati. More congratulations to the 14 Sayreville War Memorial High School students who were inducted as members of the National Honor Society on April 28. These students had to achieve rigorous standards to be considered for this membership. They are Adelaide Achiman, Loretta Achiman, Stephen Buskar, Thomas Karoshia, Susanna Farouk, Joshua Oge, Jamie John Krayback, Nihar Modi, Forum Patel, Dana Quinn, Eric Sherman, Kyle Stratton, and Nicholas Zenretta. Congratulations for the outstanding achievements accomplished. That concludes our highlights, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Dr. Alfano, can you take us through the superintendent's report, please?
Thank you, Mr. McEnroe. Starting on buildings and grounds, I believe that first resolution will take place at the high school. Is that correct, Mr. Brown? That's the July 14th and 15th, because we have about 275 people attending that conference. Or we still want to keep it, basically, we amended it, and it's on the addendum to basically say either or. I think Mr. Aguilar is here as well.
Yes, we have a meeting with the Department of Education tomorrow here at this building.
All right, so we haven't made a decision yet, so it's either or depending on the size of the and scope of the workshop.
All right.
Just so that everybody knows and understands, we are sponsoring and running a workshop for approximately 275 to 300 administrators from around the state of New Jersey through the Department of Education. It's a 2-day workshop that will start on July 14th and end on July 15th. It's a 2-day workshop, and it's packed with all types of instructional and curriculum and leadership types of seminars that the administrators and supervisors from around the state of New Jersey take part in. So we're very proud of that, and I invite any board member that would like to come and see it. It really is something else. This entire, if we do the high school, last year we had it, I believe, in the UES, and it was in the gymnasium. This year we're going to have it in the cafeteria. The good thing about having it here, it's all wireless. So, you know, this building is really a flagship building in the state now, and they're using a lot of our resources, and I think it's really a feather in our cap. Moving along, there's a couple of building uses for the Indian cultural event. Good Works, which has really done a fabulous job at the Samsel Upper Elementary School. Moving to, that is Section A. Any questions with Section A? With none, moving to B, items 1, I'm sorry.
Okay. No questions.
Sorry, Ms. Trapp. Items on B, 1 through 12 are regular resolutions. On page 4, number 13 is a disposal of a piece of equipment. And we have some landscaping, district landscaping bid that was put out, an HVAC contract to air condition, which the air conditioning unit at the TV studio hasn't worked probably since the new wing was put up, and we can attest to that because we never had air conditioning in the new wing, and we just, you know, the equipment that we have in that studio really needs, we have to be careful because we can wind up it becoming destroyed. The HVAC unit in the B wing offices, that's the last of the, pretty much the referendum to air condition those rooms. Repairing the bus compound, which we discussed, it's in pretty bad shape for $28,600. We've amended number 18, basically to, that's the MDF room. Don't ask me what an MDF room is. It's got a lot of technology in it, that's all I know, and subsequently we're upgrading that so that we get that up to code. 19 is the installation of stair treads, which is part, again, of the referendum. Moving along, we're rejecting bids of two buses. We're approving a 4-year lease for a bus in the amount of $20,000. And we also are receiving services from Coordinated Transportation Services from Union County, which we do every year. 24 through 28, this I have to congratulate Ms. Sutherland and Mr. DeAndrea. These are youngsters that are placed that we save tuition, that we get tuition back in from these different school districts, whether it be Plainfield, Warren Hills, and so on and so forth, that these youngsters were placed, they were either homeless or whatever, so we're getting tuition back. This is money in our pocket. So we even have, if you look at number 28, it's an out-of-district placement. So we have tuition for this youngster, and Ms. Sutherland tracks them very, very carefully, and Mr. DeAndrea.
That's the rate per day?
That's the rate, depending on what it says, 59 something per day. Yeah, it's $200 a day. So do the math. You're talking a $40,000 placement. And some of these run all year long. 29 is, again, a collaborative agreement that we do every year. Summer school, that's our program that we run through Middlesex Regional. Ed Data, again, is our educational data service for bidding. Once again, cooperative purchasing service, once again, is through our purchasing service that we do use every year. Item 34 is the general tax levy of $51,417,909. And you can see the appropriations. I'm going to read through them. Grade 1 through 5, salaries of teachers is $50,000. 6 through 8, teachers is $50,000. These are the cuts that were made by the mayor and council. 9 through 12, salaries $100,000. Please be aware that this is through attrition and or non-renewals. Salaries of supervisor, okay, is $100,000. So $80,925. Election that we were going to run, we no longer are, is $40,000. Repairs and maintenance for some basic repairs around the building, we decided to hold them off for a year, which is $50,000. Transportation and contracted services is $210,000. Employee health benefits $175,000, and budget fund balance $150,000. The total cut was $1,005,941.
Now, did we agree that the total increase in the tax levy now will be less than 1%?
Yes, that is proper statement.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the increase in taxes is approximately between $28 and $32.
It's $25.
Oh, to see it back. All right, so it's $25 from 88. So it dropped from 88, our original 89 actually, down to 25
A year.
a year, based on a house of about $145,000.
Dr. Alfano, if I could, there is some information that we discussed last night in the Finance Committee that I want to make sure that the full board understands what we're doing this year, especially in reference to a comment made last night by the mayor and council about having money reserved for future projects. It was handed out this evening for the public. If you wouldn't mind going to sheet D1, should be the last sheet in your packet, or in the back of the last sheet. I call it, not D1. It's prior to D1. It's the recapitulation of balances. The main thing that I want to make sure the board understands is at this point in time, we are having a good year budget-wise, both on revenues and expenditures. Administratively, collectively, we've been controlling the cost and watching what we're spending this year. So we're returning a good amount of money to the budget or to surplus. And part of the conversation last night with the mayor and council is reserving for future projects. And I want the board to understand that what we discussed last night in the finance committee is in June, there will be a resolution to transfer $500,000 of surplus to a capital reserve project, for the 11-12 year. We did discuss possibly doing a roof. It's the recommendation of Mr. Pagliano and myself that we wait until we have additional funds so that the bigger the square footage of roof replacement we're doing, the better the pricing is going to come in. So $500,000, $400,000 is only going to give partial roof replacement. If you recall, the middle school came in close to $1 million at the budget time. The high school was also $1 million. So the goal is to put money into capital reserve, and then hopefully with the grant monies that are coming in through the 10-11 year for the current projects we're doing, we'll have a substantial amount of money to possibly do a bigger project and help with bring down the cost in that process. With doing that, my calculations are still going to bring surplus to a 2% level at the end of this year. After the money that's being appropriated from the budget, original budget plus the budget to feed, putting $500,000 in reserve, I have estimated that we will still have $1,500,000 in surplus for the amount that we're allowed. It's roughly around the 2%. So we're looking to do that to prepare for next year, and also it's also to ensure that if the governor does as he did this year, taking any excess money, took 100% of it. If it's in the capital reserve, this year he only took 25%. So at least we're protecting 75% of the money that we're anticipating we're going to receive, or end up above the 2% level. It's a good strategy. It also helps us prepare. We're not doing any real major project this year. The goal is next year we could possibly do a project for about $1 million and have half of that money already reserved so that we don't have to go to the taxpayers for the full amount.
Board concerns? Ms. Beck?
It was my impression last night when they talked about the $500,000 that they were referencing the $500,000 that was left in the referendum money. Correct?
That's the other $500,000. They were referencing 200. My recommendation is do the 500.
Well, they said the remaining balance of the capital project to be used for high school roof and auditorium, $500,000. That was the referendum money?
That's
they
referendum
discussed.
money. And I'm saying this 500 is different than that.
So this is an additional $500,000?
The 500 that the mayor and council is recommending is the leftover money from the referendum, of which you have one item tonight for $33,000, the stair treads, is a part of that money. We've been negotiating with Sean Ray Construction for the auditorium renovation, and there were certain parts of that project that we feel we can do at a better price and with some of our in-house people to save additional money. So we're negotiating that, and then whatever money remains from that 500, most likely which should be enough money to do the L-wing roof replacement, which was part of the $1 million that the board did contemplate at one point in time. So that 500 we will spend hopefully through the summer. This 500 is actually taking surplus money that you're generating this year, reserving for a project next year, so that you don't have to go out to the taxpayers for it.
The $200,000 for the capital reserve, you're increasing the 200 to 500, additional 300, or an additional 500?
Additional 300.
Additional 300.
So that 500 in total will be set aside for reserve.
Okay, so there'll be a total of 1.2 million in theory.
Well, you can't commingle the two, but it's 500 and 500.
You can't commingle them accounting, but I can commingle.
It's $1 million. Not
It's
$1
$1
million, $1 million. 500 and 500.
Any other questions, comments?
I would like to, before I move past this,
Go ahead.
I would like to thank Mr. DeAndre and the board in general. I mean, we really worked very hard to try to keep this budget intact so that, like the promise that we made in regard to doing everything we possibly could to retain as much staff as possible, I believe that we accomplished that goal. And a lot of these, this $200,000 is either going to be replaced through attrition, through retirement, and that's pretty much where we're at right now, and breakage. So I see some of the carnage around that my fellow superintendents are doing in Middlesex County, and due to Mr. DeAndrea's very good budgeting, and Ms. Sutherland, who really also helps out, and Ms. Duffy, who's done a fabulous job in keeping down the costs associated with special education, and doing it within the law is not a very easy thing to do, as well as we're all working together. So I'm fairly optimistic that hopefully next year we won't have to do this again, but you never know. I'm hoping that the governor doesn't hit us too hard next year. So once again, I want to thank everybody. I think it's been a positive ending, and I want to thank again the board, because if it wasn't for you, this wouldn't be possible.
Any other questions on finance? Ms. Backo?
For 16, is that money coming out of the referendum?
No, it's not. That's coming out of our operating, because it was not part of the scope, and it was not related to any construction that we did during the year.
I'm sorry, those you have any more?
Yeah, if you want to.
Go ahead, keep going.
17 and 18, did we bid those out?
17 and 18, no, they're not over the $29,000 requirement, so we were allowed to go out and get competitive quotes, and Mr. Pantaviano always gets his quotes.
And his man.
But the stair treads are coming out of the bond, correct? Right?
Yes.
Yes,
So
and that's
what's
why the special
distinction?
resolution is there.
So what's the distinction between the two, why one can come out and one can't?
The stair treads are a result of 3 years of construction where contractors were continually moving commercial construction equipment across these stair treads. They really did take quite a beating over 3.5 years of construction. So it was an outcome of that construction process where item number 16 was not part of the original scope of work. Those 13 offices that sit at the front end of the B wing were never to be incorporated to have air conditioning, so this is above and beyond the original scope.
But those offices are new.
Those are brand new offices, but air conditioning was not part of the scope of work.
Just for everybody's reference, everybody knows what stair treads are. These are rubberized coatings on the stairs.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue.
I have no questions on this budget original, do you?
Yeah, do that. No, question.
Okay. In light of the large surplus balance that we now have that we didn't have last night when I asked the auditor what the balance was, these first three, 50, 50, and 100 for the salaries, how much of that do you plan is breakage versus position?
At this point in time, we haven't really determined that. We're still working through the number of retirees, the non-renewals that are out there, but I really don't know the answer to that because we haven't determined that at this point in time.
Okay, but was it you who determined to split it in this three?
Yes, I was
way
the one
you
that
did
determined. They gave me 200,000, I picked 50, 50, and 100.
Any rationale or just arbitrary or?
50, 50, and 100. High school has one of the biggest portions, so I just put 100 there.
Okay, and for repairs and maintenance, is there anything specific in there that's being cut, or is it just?
Yes, at this point in time, I'm going to recommend, Dennis and I are speaking, we had $20,000 set aside for the athletic field in case. We'll probably remove that 20,000, and after that, there was 20,000 for painting of classrooms, 20,000 for carpet replacement, I believe it's B7 in the middle school, and the guidance suite carpet replacement. We haven't decided which project we feel is the priority at this point in time, but the culmination of those 4 items come back to $50,000.
I'm going to make a suggestion. I would like to see, since since we ended up with a 2% surplus balance even after you took out the 500,000. Based on what happened to us last year and how we lost the money, I would like to see us apply more of the fund balance and take down these first three numbers. That would be my recommendation.
The only thing I would push on the board at that point is that the continual additional money that you put out of surplus means additional money that you have to generate the following year. So you're now going from 2.8 to $3 million that you have to make up the following year. And that's part of what we were able to negotiate with the mayor and council to allow us to reserve monies to be set aside. That's part of the rationale as to why they didn't put it against surplus. They know that we're going to have a need for facility improvements
That was their
for the
suggestion.
following year.
That was
And
their
that was a
suggestion.
discussion we had.
How much do we lose from this current budget from surplus from the state?
$600,000 around it.
And that's your concern, that it's
Right,
out there?
and so we have to make it up anyway, and I'd much rather see take the risk on our side than give it back to the state, like we ended up doing last year. So,
I can't see the state, doing that again. I guess I shouldn't say that.
Well, and again, that's why the rationale came to set aside $500,000 because that's money they can't touch at that point.
Well, if we put it in to offset that, then we're not going to be able to apply it for next year. If the state takes it, we won't be able to apply it for next year, so we should just leave it where.
$3 million is a big amount of money, and in my 8 years here, I do not believe we've ever approached a number of that magnitude for surplus for tax relief. And to generate $3 million in a budget that is roughly down $2.4 million from the current year, I don't know how we're going to generate that kind of money. It's going to be real difficult. We're all going to work together as an administrative team to make those things happen, but it's going to be tough, especially when you reduce your budget by $2.4 million this year.
Well, if they come with a 2.5 cap next year, that's going to play into this.
If we have a 2.5 cap, that's even more difficult, and hopefully the premiums for insurance don't jump as they are this year.
Are you confident that we're not going to be over the 2% surplus limit?
At this point in time, based on what I have out there, I feel comfortable we're going to be around that number. Again, as Dr. Alfano, there are certain kids in these special placements. If a child leaves today, it's 2 months that you're not paying for that child. That can generate money. I have a certain amount of money set aside for substitute teachers. If the number of substitutes don't come in for the months of May and June, that's money that we return. So I look at statistically how much we spent prior year. So if we had substitutes in the prior year, a total of $700,000, that's what I estimate, because there's really no clear way to indicate where you're going to be. So if we come less than that, that's more money that's generated back. But I feel comfortable that the numbers we're working with, we're going to be in the range.
But last year, we felt very comfortable that our projection was 1.25%, and we came in over 2, and we ended up losing that money.
I know.
So every year, our projections are off.
Again, disagree with that.
So let me ask this question. If we were to appropriate that money right now in the budget towards not the salary items or anything here, but towards the capital fund, let's say instead of $500,000, we decide we're going to appropriate $700,000.
And we can do that next month.
Hang on. We put that in the budget for $700,000. Now let's say our surplus number falls exactly where you anticipated, and we can only appropriate $500,000 in. We can do that, correct?
No, if it's in your budget at 700,
You have to do 700.
Yes.
And you can't do over 7, you can't do over the 5 if we happen to have.
No, you can. If you have extra,
That's
you
what I was
can.
looking for. Okay.
But right now, I'm comfortable at 5. Come the end of June, our meeting is June 22nd, we might be able to put additional funds in. This is strictly for the budget process to put a dollar amount in, and right now we have roughly $500,000 in excess.
So we can appropriate as much as we want to alleviate us going over the 2% surplus?
Yes.
So that solves the problem?
In June.
Yeah.
So we could take, is there anything else you could do in June besides appropriate the surplus in the capital reserve?
Just basically capital reserve. Off the top of my head, capital reserve is really the only area. And a lot of my colleagues are doing that in this year's budget. Even if they're not anticipating to, they're putting money into capital reserve in light of what occurred this year from the state. They took excess above 2%, 25% of your reserve. A lot of us are saying 25% of a reserve is a lot better than 100% of another number. So, and the governor may see next year and say, change that 25 to 50. There's no guarantees where we're going with this. But at least we can put money to the side for projects.
Mr. McEnroe?
Mr. Bishop.
Mr. D'Andrea, your forecast for the end of year, June 30th, closing of the accounts, of the total amount in the budget, how much do you project will be spent, percentage-wise?
I didn't look at a percentage, I can give you a dollar. I'm projecting right now, I'm projecting that we're gonna return about $2.7 million of our budget
And what
in expenditures.
And that, I believe you had mentioned one time, I believe it was around, we were spending about 97%.
Probably 2.7 is gonna be around 97% of the budget off the top, real quick number.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go into section 3, or C.
No, we're not there yet. There's an addendum, 35, 36, 37, 38, new security system for the middle school and the high school. And project before is our end of the year soiree on May 28th. Of course, all the board members, Mr. D'Andrea and I will be barbecuing once again. Any questions, any other questions with section 2? Speak, actually. With none, moving to C, personnel non-certified. We have a few retirements. I wish those, Kathleen and Gertrude, well. We're non-certificated individuals and have worked in the district, and I wish them a lot of health and happiness. 2 and 3, basically, you were just adding the word retroactively to an unpaid medical leaves. Number 4 is a job coach, 5 are some professional days, and 6 is the May 19th through, these are the substitute list, and there's some additions to the substitute list, which is on the next page. And there's 2 additions on this section, 7 and 8. One is an unpaid medical leave, and another is a transfer on the addendum. Any questions with section C? With none, moving to D.
Excuse me, Dr. Alfano. Mr. McEnroe?
Yes,
Mr. D'Andrea, on 3 under personnel, I'll be voting no.
Question, on number 3, you said you have unpaid, isn't that paid? Because you said it's the difference between the pay you're paying.
Yes.
Is that considered a paid?
Right. So it's a matter, well, we could change, but that, it says in the end, it's unpaid, request difference between her pay and that of the substitute.
It is unpaid.
It's not paid then.
Yes.
It's not paid.
It's unpaid, she's getting a differential.
Right. Moving on to section D. Once again, I'd like to congratulate Sandy and Alice for all the years of service in the Sayreville School District on their retirement. There was also an unpaid medical leave, a few pregnancy leaves, unpaid child rearing leave, which is number 6. There's an amendment, which means it's extended throughout the entire year next year. Number 7 is, once again, the District Professional Development Plan. That was approved by the New Jersey Department of Education. Once again, that is a huge report. I want to thank the Professional Development Committee, Ms. Baumann, Ms. Sutherland, and all the members of the committee. I know it's a long, drawn-out, tedious process, and I want to thank them again for doing such a great job. 8, retroactively payment of Ms. Valera, and we will discuss this at a later time, that we have to create the fee schedule for this extracurricular activity situation. We used to pay this through, and I mentioned this in a note, we used to pay this through the actual events or the actual extracurricular proceeds. We're no longer doing that. This is an audit trail that we need to make sure that we follow through and that we set the rates and the hourly rates so that everybody gets paid the same. And at the same time, we understand exactly what we're going to approve. And we'll get to that for next year. We'll probably need to have some information for you before the end of June. And we'll approve those rates over the summer. Moving along, number 9 is the professional development days. There's a couple of extra people on the addendum. Number 10 is a $200 a day because it's a Spanish teacher. Then there's the substitute list. There is also a nursing substitute list. That's it for section D. Any questions with section D? With none, moving to E, policy. I believe there are two policies. First reading, nepotism. Anything that's highlighted, there's no special reason why it's yellow and whatever that other color is, but green, basically those are new additions to the policy. Use of school facilities, everything that we discussed is highlighted in regard to advertisement. This is something the board had asked us to do. We, Carla put it together, and this is the first reading. If we have any changes, we can do that before the next meeting. But for the most part, it's pretty clean cut.
I have a question on the nepotism policy.
Yes, sir.
I think this is 8 paragraphs longer than it needs to be. It says nepotism for the purpose of this policy shall be defined as showing of favoritism to an employee or candidate for employment based on the existence of a relationship. So, let's say I understand what nepotism is. If you're a family member or a board member, you're not going to get hired to the district. And I agree with that. But let's say hypothetically, to get around this, my brother-in-law applies for a job in the district. Okay, he doesn't have the same last name as his. Nobody knows who he is. He interviews. He's the best candidate for the job. He gets the job. By this policy, no favoritism was shown him because they didn't know who he was. If it's later uncovered that that's a relative of mine, I'm in violation of the nepotism policy. Okay, so why don't we just say nepotism, no family member of a board member will be employed by the district, and then you have the end of the policy.
Well, you have a, I want to call it a weasel clause at the end. You certainly, if you felt that your brother-in-law was the most qualified person that we could know, he was like Horace Mann Jr., that basically we could apply to the county superintendent and he could waive that policy, according to this.
The top paragraph on 14.
Yeah, but I shouldn't have to get that far down.
Yeah, we don't, in the policy. I'm sorry, but that's what they're saying. I didn't write it, I'm only putting it out there.
See, I think an exception is to be, for example, when we have and this came up, our children that are students in the school, through the work program.
That's mentioned in
That's
the policy.
mentioned in here too.
Okay.
They're okay.
So is it just me, or does any other board member see how that's a loop around? If you don't know who that person is, you couldn't have possibly shown favoritism.
I agree with that, but I also do not see it here, and I think we might be a version behind with this policy. I didn't see the loophole, not the loophole, the exception for substitutes of children, substitutes who are children of board members.
It's in here, Kevin, because,
Last line on
when it says exceptions.
There were 3 times I couldn't find it. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, it is, and I just received it from my buddy Lou.
Okay.
And he gives it to me, and I try to clean this up. This has really been changed, like, severely.
Yes.
And I tried to clean it up so that at least it's legible.
Look, lawyers write these, okay? And this is
Not me, I'm not writing.
But my point is, if we have a nepotism policy, then nepotism, I think the goal is to make sure that we are not hiring our family members to the district, and I agree with that. So why don't we just say that?
But I think we're also dependent on board members to let us know. I mean, you approve everyone who's employed by the district.
Therefore, you take an oath and a code of ethics to abide by the rules and regulations of the state of New Jersey, and the expectation would be, if such name came before the board, you would be expected to reveal that it is in fact a violation of the nepotism policy.
I agree with you, Ms. Sutherland, but when we get to the point where the board is approving it, you already hired the person.
No, only the board
Right.
hires.
But you're recommending that person, correct?
Yes, but in the absence of knowledge that you have and we don't.
So then, I'm not violating nepotism policy. Because you didn't show
Only if you
favoritism.
sit, only
Yeah,
if
but then you
sit-
would violate the disclosure
that's-
form and the ethics form.
Well, then all I would have to do is abstain.
Right?
No.
No. Can't do it, he's violating the nepotism policy. His brother-in-law, he would have to go through the county
Okay,
superintendent.
now that I made my point, it should just simply say that a relative of a board member shouldn't be hired to the district. It would not.
But it also has to cover the exclusions for people who are grandfathered prior to this law taking in effect. If there are any relatives of administrators or board members already in the district, there's a separate set of provisions
Okay,
for those individuals.
I'm practicing bleeding.
I think we leave that horse to
I
death.
have a question on that.
Let's press on.
The first paragraph is not yellow?
Good go.
Or
Which
not-
policy?
Not highlighted. Same policy, page 14.
For the purpose, right?
Go ahead.
Purpose?
Which
When a board member or superintendent, so on page 14.
Go ahead.
14?
board members, right,
Right. Based on the way we've done it, it says they, a board member's relative, if they work for the district, they can't participate in negotiations, and they can't be on the team, and we've done that. But nobody's been able to vote either on the contract. But this doesn't say that. Is this different? Is this
Correct.
changed?
Correct, no. The voting on the contract deals with another regulation. This deals with nepotism and hiring or voting on people. The regulations regarding contract participation are a separate set of regulations, separate and apart from who is hired.
Right, but it talks about negotiations in here, so there's another policy that also addresses negotiations?
Correct.
And that's where it states you can't vote
Correct.
on a contract? Okay.
And that's covered in regulation, not
it's
just
a regulation, there's a regulation on the bottom too.
That's
It's
all, so that's not
administrative.
changing?
No.
It's just not in here?
It's
Correct.
NJAC is on the bottom too, it says, and there's all these NJSA regulations.
Okay, and I'd like to ask the board to consider this. It was something that they did down at the borough, and I think it would be a good extension of this policy. If we had something in here that a board member could not be offered a job until they were off the board for a certain amount of years.
That's law.
That's
Oh,
state
is
law.
it?
That's
But
law.
it's not-
I believe it's now 2 years, right?
2 years.
It used to be
Yeah.
6 months.
But it's
Now
not
2
in
years.
here.
It doesn't need to be, it's law.
It doesn't have to be.
It's law. It's on the, I believe it's on the
And
HJAC.
it's 2 years?
I believe, it used to be 6 months, Kevin, now I believe it's 2 years.
Yes.
Because I've never seen it in writing.
Yes, you don't need
Is that only
to.
for schools?
I would assume it's only, I don't know, I only know if it's in for
I know
schools
it
and
applies
board
for
members.
schools, I don't know. if it
It's
applies to
ethics,
anything
it's
else.
in the ethics regulation.
Okay?
See what kind of discussion we've had just approving this, madam, we had to apply it.
Well, believe me, we had, if you recall, we had a long discussion about this, I believe, in the beginning of the year.
I have another question on the other policy.
Go ahead.
Before we move on. Page 17,
Yes,
for letter B,
yes.
where it says, all advertisements must be submitted for final approval to the superintendent.
Yes.
Would this show up on an agenda who the advertisers were for the public to see?
No.
No.
Can we change that so that if there's an objection that maybe somebody knows something about an advertiser that maybe the superintendent doesn't know since you don't live here, then maybe it would come forward?
What I would suggest, and the reason why it was written this way, it was out of consideration for the parent organization that wanted to do this. If we required board approval for every advertisement, that would mean that you would have to wait till the next board meeting, should you get an advertisement, they might lose business. If you would like, what we can do is share with you in Friday packet the name of all advertisers. I think that would give you the information that you need, and you would then only have to tell us whatever you think is inappropriate, and then we could notify the parent organization, and that advertisement would not go up.
I thought it was an advertisement, it was going up once and staying. I didn't think this was a rotating
No,
advertisement.
we don't want them to stay. We wanted to get away from that.
That's why we,
No, they're just gonna flip it like this.
It's
was
an
originated
hour
from-
before, they're put up, any advertisements are put up an hour before and taken down 1 hour after the event. So that, you don't have vandalism, you left them up, you see what happens.
I like leaving it under the superintendent.
Yes.
The board has plausible
No, I
deniability.
wasn't looking for, well, not necessarily a vote, I just
I
wanted it for
understand.
public, for the public.
We'll be very careful with it. Phyllis, believe me, it's not something I really want to do.
We'll
but
trust your discretion.
I know, it gets a little heated every once in a while.
We can always say the superintendent approved.
And, moving on to section F, curriculum. These are the early dismissal dates, that's Monday through Friday, it's Monday through Thursday, it's very late this year, so we went half days, and that also includes the high school and middle school exams. Preschool integrated class graduation is the 15th and 16th, they need 2 days for theirs. The right to the top, Ms. Sutherland is going to speak a little bit about the Race to the Top application, which we're going to be involved with this year.
This is round 2 application for Race to the Top. Round 1, we did not participate because we could not submit our application because for round 1, both the Board of Education, the administration, and the Teachers Association had to sign off on the memorandum of understanding. For round 2, they have changed those regulations, and as a result, we only need the board and the administrative signatures on the application to participate. I sent a very lengthy explanation to Dr. Alfano that was forwarded to board members that you should not expect that we are going to be eligible for ARA funding through Race to the Top. The ARA funding formula that's being used for Race to the Top is the same one that was used for Title I ARA. Under Title I ARA, we got $0 because the per capita income of several residents is too high to qualify. My recommendation is that even though we aren't getting any funding, I believe we should participate because it would open to the district access to all the technology, all of the professional development, dealing with the type of things that Race to the Top is going to be engaged in, like creating instructional observation instruments, how to evaluate personnel, administrative and certificated staff and non-certificated staff, using pupil performance indicators. This is the direction in which we as a district are going. It's a national direction, and I think access to that information and those resources is worth participation. I will indicate on the application that anything regarding payments to teachers with regard to stipends or incentives would only be permitted if they were grant funded. So signing the memorandum of understanding would be at no cost to the board other than maybe time for professional development for some individuals. We were instructed by Commissioner Schundler that we could put those restrictions on a memorandum of understanding and that we also had the ability to quit at any time, which you didn't have in round 1. I think we have much to gain, if not in dollars, than in learning and professional development and important participation as stakeholders in this program. So I'm recommending that the board approve our participation when it comes time to vote on this particular article. Are there any questions?
Moving on to number 4, these are the services for special education. Any questions with section F? And I want to thank Ms. Sutherland. This is, the Race to the Top is very complicated and it's real time consuming. The application is huge. So we're going to get involved and hopefully exactly what Ms. Sutherland said, that we can learn a lot from our colleagues and from some of the workshops that will be available to us and some of the training programs. So we're going to keep an open mind on it and we'll just see what happens. Section G, co-curricular. There is a parent orientation at the Samsel Upper Elementary School, Truman Talks, SAD conference in Orlando. Once again, I have to, Mr. Kraft does a great job with that Fedora Productions. He's on top of that. He's constantly working with those children. Super job, and certainly anything that he puts forward I will support, and I'm sure the board will as well. Again, we're going through the big band competition back in the end of October, what we always do. It's a huge project, and I want to thank all the band parents because it is a tremendous undertaking, and it really is a positive experience for our children. Moving on, the third grade Battle of the Books at Wilson, the Science Fair at the UES. There's a lot of things going on right now, as you can see. Bioscience Forum competition. If you look on the addendum, number 10, you look at A and B, it's middle school PTO. They're just doing a program and a contest, a fundraiser, and the girls softball team will also be sponsoring a faculty student charity. Any questions with section G?
Dr. Alfano?
Yes, sir.
Number 5 under co-curriculum, I hope that this is a typographical error. 2010, shouldn't that be 2011?
No, that's this year. October 2010.
Thank you. My mistake.
No problem. H, we're support services, waive transportation policy, transportation routes are all listed there. I'd also like to publicly, once again, thank Ms. Shedlock. She saved the district about $150,000 by diligently going out and rebidding and bidding and bidding to the point where she knocked down $150,000 off our appropriation. On number 5, we have 23 trips that are going to various places. If you continue on to page 28, this is the Samsel operation.
I am.
This is Trav.
Comment. It was from the beginning. The Good Works,
Where you at, page number?
page number 2, and I don't know if Mr. Kubik or Mr. Aguilis would like to comment on the Good Works Foundation, but basically it helps the students, and there's no cost to the students, and I would like to recommend that we waive the cost for the custodians on that day, that Saturday. Basically, the Good Works Foundation is run by grants, and I think it would be, they do a lot for our students, and I would like to help them out a little bit by...
Whatever the board pleasure is.
Any board member have
And they do a great job, they really do.
issue with that?
The board directed me to will not pay for a custodian, I'll just add the word.
That's what,
All right.
anything else on the agenda?
Ms. Sutherland, please make sure.
Anything else, Mr. Trapp?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, I'd like to open up to the public for agenda items only. If you have any questions or comments on what we discussed on the agenda, please come up, state your name and address for the record. Be mindful, I will open up again for the public for any business that may come before the board. But this time, just for agenda items. Anybody from the public? Yes, Ms. Bloom raced up here. She's racing to the top. Yes.
I haven't been racing lately.
We'll get you, Ms. Yanes.
I did want to let the board know that the SEA is not in favor of applying for the Race to the Top, and as Ms. Sutherland knows, we discussed it. I just wanted to point out that the application, as I viewed it, had over 20 items. 3 of those items directly related to students. The balance of the items, in my opinion, imposed additional controls on teachers and could be in violation of our collective bargaining agreement, including merit pay, evaluation, certification, and tenure. I don't believe these things should be controlled by the state or the federal government. Thank you.
But we can still press on without the SAA endorsement, right? Okay. Thank you. Mrs. DePinto.
I have a question on the use of school facilities proposal.
Which one?
The one about...
Policy.
the
Policy.
policy. Right. Being treasurer at the middle school and the upcoming president of the PTO next year, I want to make sure I understand this. So any fundraising posters we want to hang, we need approval by the superintendent?
No.
Help me out here.
It's
This is
very
to make money.
simple. It's very simple, Beth. This policy in this section deals with advertisements. That's outside advertisers who pay you a fee to advertise their particular business or organization at your event. Any advertisements done regarding school activities are always free.
So
And-
dances, fundraisers, we
Absolutely.
do, we're okay.
Please.
Nothing's
I gotta
changed.
know.
Yeah,
This is
because I
if
mean,
you wanted,
No, that's.
as a fundraising activity, if you wanted
Good
to
question.
sell advertisements for a field day, and you would go out and solicit advertisements from local businesses to hang their signs in the area in which your activity is happening, that's what this
They
refers
pay the
to.
fee to hang the
So
sign.
I'm thinking, you wanna know how much money we make, you wanna know what we use
No,
for it?
no.
We just want you to
You
keep
guys do a
making
great job.
money.
Thank you.
But the superintendent would approve anything for the middle school.
But
Anyone
that-
else
but
from
that-
the public like to speak? If not, I'll close the public portion of agenda items only, and I'll entertain a motion to file and accept the superintendent's report.
I move the superintendent's report in its entirety.
I need a second. Second. I need a roll call vote.
Mr. Balcom? Yes, except for I'm saying on section B, question 8.
Page 3. Treasurer's money source.
Yeah,
Mrs. Balcom?
Page 6, number 34. I'm going to vote no. And page 8. Number 3. Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Bishara?
Yes, with notation from page 8, section 3. Let me clarify, I'll grant the requested unpaid medical leave, but not the difference in salary.
Mrs. Bruno Raffulia?
I'm going to vote no on page 8, number 3, until the district sets a policy for sick leave, and yes on everything else.
Mr. Syak?
Mr. McEnroe, can I get an explanation as to why Mrs. Backo is voting against the budget?
You can ask Mrs. Backo.
Oh, because I think that we should apply more surplus. I thought that was clear.
Yes, in the superintendent's report.
Mrs. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Lombard?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft?
Yes.
Mr. McEnroe?
Yes. Background information and discussion. Anybody have anything for background information and discussion? Mrs. Backo.
RFPs, did we put any RFPs out for professional services, the auditor or anything?
This year, the only thing that went out is the auditors.
Is there a plan to put them out for any of the other
At
professionals?
this point in time, it's not a requirement, and I've had no real input from the board that they're looking to change any other professionals at this point in time.
What are the other ones? It would be that, the health benefits and the risk management, what else is
You would
there?
do risk manager, health benefits, anything that relates to special services, just trying to go with the attorneys, and that really is about all.
But there's one out already for the auditor?
Yes, that's been a request by the board to put the auditors out.
Mrs. Sutherland, last night I was talking to, I had some dialogue with the professor of mathematics at Rutgers about their partnership with middle school mathematics. Can you tell me what you found out about our involvement in that?
Yes, I'm very pleased to announce that through the efforts of Principal Jakubik and our math supervisor, Ms. Everhart, the middle school has been selected to be a participant in the New Jersey Partnership for Educational Excellence in Middle School Mathematics. This involves a grant program. It's a $5 million grant project involving the districts of Carteret, Long Branch, Old Bridge, Orange, Plainfield, Saraville, and Toms River. The purpose of the grant is to, quote-unquote, deepen teachers' understanding of the mathematics that they teach, and the long-term goals are to enhance students' engagement and achievement in all areas of mathematics. This current year, 4 teachers from the middle school are engaged in master's level courses through this program. They attend courses in the evening and the summer. It will be a 2-year commitment from these teachers. And for next year, the middle school has 4 additional teachers who will be added to the program. So for the next 2 years, we'll have 8 teachers from our district involved in this very intense mathematical educational program. After 2 years in the program, all will be conferred with the degree of Masters in Mathematics Education. So we're very proud of these teachers. We're looking forward to what they bring back to our school system, and I certainly compliment and commend Ms. Jakubik, her administration, and Mr. Everhart.
So you're saying is that we have teachers in the district that will attend this program at Rutgers is paying through a grant that they received, and they will be conferred master's degrees in mathematics at no cost to them.
At absolutely no cost to them. As a matter of fact, for their participation, they will receive a stipend.
Is that for board members too?
I think you have to have a degree in mathematics first in order to participate. And you have to be currently teaching
Has to be
a grade
mathematics.
6 through 8 mathematics course.
That's a good deal.
It certainly is.
Wow.
It certainly is. We're very proud of our teachers.
Yeah, excellent. And that's a competitive,
Yes, it is.
and we got 4 outstanding. Okay, thank you for that. The delegate to the New Jersey School Board Association, Mr. Kevin Simon. I almost said Curtis Cole.
Yeah.
Kevin Simon.
As my last official duty as the immediate past president, I got to swear in on Saturday the new officers of the New Jersey School Boards Association, who are President Raymond Wiss, Vice President for County Activities Charles Miller, Vice President for Finance Douglas, find his last name, Doug Webster, and Vice President for Legislation John Molina. I really want to thank the Sayreville Board and the Sayreville community. I've just completed 7 years as an officer of New Jersey School Boards. It was a great experience. I worked with a great group of people. My term is now complete, and I can return home, and let me tell you, as good as it was to be an officer, it feels very good to return home and have a little bit of my life back. In addition to electing the succeeding officers, we also approved 2 different policies, which basically give the New Jersey School Boards Association direction in terms of their policy positions. One is something that I think has been a long-term goal of this board, which is the opportunity to charge for summer school and remedial courses if they're offered by the district for home students. Currently, if the district offers a summer school or remedial program, students who are attending in Sayreville are not required to pay, and we cannot charge them by law. Out-of-district students can pay, but we are unable to charge any type of student in Sayreville. And with a lot of the revenue problems that districts are having, that opens up some additional flexibility. And the second resolution was just a clarification of the policy position, asking for programs with regard to preventing school violence to also include the support for programs preventing harassment, intimidation, and bullying, which this board also has a policy on as well.
Thank you. Thank you for an update. Lastly, there's 2 discussion items. One is the Sayreville Community Day participation. Who has that one?
I guess.
Thank you for volunteering.
I guess I do it September 26th, though I'm not going to be here that weekend, but I'll organize it, and I already have plans for that weekend.
Okay,
Unless if you wanted to do it, Mike.
Let me think about that for a second. I have plans. I'm sure you have a committee. Isn't there a committee? Community relations committee?
Yeah.
Oh,
One and a half
well, I'm
hours
sure
for somebody else.
we'll pitch in. Just tell us what you need.
Right.
We'll pitch in.
I'll send out an email and anybody that can help me. And if they don't respond, I'll keep sending it till they do.
Okay. Cafeteria pricing, 2010-11. Who has that?
That's being, that was a, with the
Okay.
Finance Committee recommended that be held.
Do you have the state prices?
Yes, that was sent to the board.
Oh, I just saw that you said they were higher. I didn't have a list of what they were.
They're $4.
I didn't have.
They're recommending $4, $3.75, and $3.50. I still have that. Yes, it's part of last night's discussion.
It was 4,375, 350.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the board and the Finance Committee requested that we hold off any action on that because there is talk that the state may reduce their free and reduced reimbursements for next year in part of the budget to be.
I just have one thing for discussion. I mentioned this briefly at the council meeting last night. So if you were at the council meeting last night, indulge me. On Sunday, while having my breakfast, I took the Star Ledger out of its bag and I noticed the front page article was, while debate rages over salaries, here are the facts and figures. Anytime I see something on facts, I like to read it because I know sometimes facts to people are inconvenient. But basically, it was titled, What Does My Child's Teacher Earn? And if you read the article, it talks about the mean salary for teachers. Now, when you come up with a mean, that means that you can have half the people making less, half the people that are making more. It's a pretty in-depth article. It covers a couple of pages. It says the nation's teachers generally are paid less than people in other professions that require similar degrees. And the reason I mention this is because every time you turn on the news or read the paper, there's something negative being said about teachers. And I never thought I'd see the day when you're at a party and somebody asks you what you do, and you might be embarrassed to say you're a teacher. And that's a sad day for us all. It goes on to say that among public workers, the police in New Jersey are the highest paid in the nation, with an average base salary of $75,400. Firefighters, on the average, make $69,620, also the highest in the country. The median pay for teachers, however, with master's degrees is $66,212, nearly $9,000 less than what other New Jersey residents with master's degrees make. It goes on to say that teachers make less than accountants, architects, and computer system analysts. When I was pressing on with the article, and I came across the last page, which has Middlesex County listed. And we have 25 municipalities in Middlesex County. And Sayreville is the 6th lowest in paying teachers, with a mean salary of $51,400. We have 429 teachers in Sayreville, 118 with master's degrees, which is a good percentage, and 2 that hold doctorate degrees. 6th lowest out of 25. If you want to live in Carteret or South River, they pay teachers a little lower. There was some talk about Edison last night at the council meeting. What's going on there? Why they're laying off 200 people and we're not laying off any. Well, when you look at the analysis, say, well, again, I'll mention page 51,400 median salary. Edison, 71,078. So that's $20,000 median paid more per teacher. And I will compare us against Edison in any category anybody cares to match us against. Woodbridge is another district that's been in the news, decimating their district by hundreds of people. Their median salary is $62,000. That's $11,000 more than 70. So I bring this up simply because it's factual. I doubt anybody will ever come to the microphone and point this out to me. So I feel the need to point that out just as a generality. I mentioned at the last meeting that there's a lot of fighting going on between the governor and the NGAA. And I mentioned that I have some issues with the NGA, but I may not support them totally, but I sure the hell support the SEA because they're unstable. I just wanted to point this out because we've been accused of spending money frivolously, that we pay people too much, and those types of things. When the facts bear it out, and kudos, which the Star Ledger, although I disagree with more of the things they write than they agree with, but this is factual. And this article was put together very well. And there's some other information that I won't bore you with, but it was in the Sunday edition of the Star Ledger, and I just felt that in my position, I'm somewhat obligated to point this out to those that may think otherwise. So, again, our budget, as we know, the council last night took out $1,005,941. My response to them, that's a nice round number. But that's what they came up with, and that was after we already sustained about a $5 million cut from the state. I never thought that I would be criticized because I didn't lay anybody off or I didn't cut a program. Well, when you look at that, maybe it's because we've been doing a pretty damn good job budgeting over the last 6 or 7 years, and we don't have to resort to those types of things. We are in a financial situation. I say we're limping now. We have to see what happens. I don't think next year is going to be better. But at least we know that now, and the things that Mr. DeAndre was talking about earlier, trying to do what we can now with what we have to be able to offset what might might occur next year, especially the governor may propose a 2.5% cap. And the budget that we put forward before it failed was 2.97, so we're pretty close. And now with the council cut, we're less than 1% increase to the tax levy. These are the facts. You can say what you want about me, but you cannot change what the facts are. And I think these do fall on deaf ears. And I think when they don't support people's agendas, they become irrelevant, like the Jersey test scores have been defined. So I just felt the need to mention this. So I like reading the paper. At this time, I'd like to open to the public for any...
Might you, one, I'd like to follow up on that if I could?
Yes, sir.
I agree with everything you said. I wasn't going to say anything, but I know if I don't say anything, I'm going to be up all night angry, so I'm going to say it. I think if we're going to look at this district at a race to the top, from a budget standpoint, we need to start passing budgets. And I don't see any way that we're going to be able to pass a budget in this district if we can't get a unanimous board behind the budget. And Mr. McEnroe, I'm frustrated because I don't know how to do that. I understand that everybody has a right to their vote. I understand that everyone has to vote their conscience and their beliefs. But I think there's also has to be a prioritization of the larger picture. For example, I believe that we could garner significant savings by reducing our utility consumption. But I'm not going to hold a board meeting in the dark because I think it's more important that the public be able to see us than it is my belief that we save money in utilities. You know, I believe saving money in utilities, but I'm not going to have our kids sit in classrooms that are 30 degrees because I think it's more important overall that our students be in classrooms that are climate controlled and at a reasonable temperature. And yet when we go to vote on a budget, when we have a board member voting no on a budget because of the placement of a referendum or one or two items, and then I indicated at that time there's a good chance that the budget's going to fail because we're not unanimous, and then the budget does fail. And then it goes to the Borough Council. And we work off a yeoman's effort, and it's a credit to the board, it's a credit to the administration, and it's also a credit to the Borough Council for not completely decimating the school district, for not laying off additional staff. And then we get back here again, and we still can't even get a unanimous vote on a budget that only has a $28 tax increase. And I don't even think if we were able to get it down to 0 that we would have a unanimous vote. And until this board unites around the big picture, around education, and around adopting and pushing for a budget unanimously as a team, we're going to continue having this same discussion, these same cycles, and these same problems. I don't know how we do it, but this has been stewing inside of me for a while, and maybe now that I'm not president of New Jersey School Boards, I'm starting to speak, but I had to say it, and Mr. McEnroe, those are my thoughts.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm not looking to have a fight amongst board members either, but I'll say this. I've only been in town for 15 years, but people that have been on this, that are on this board that have been here longer have told me budgets haven't passed for 30-some-odd years. The issue I have with school board budgets is like me asking someone who may very well support education, would you like me to raise your taxes? That's kind of the question you're asking. I've always supported school budgets because I understand the value of education, because I've been to countries that depress education, and I've seen the results of that, and I've always supported education. Would I like to have a 9.0? Sure. Am I happy with 8.1? You betcha. And I'll take 8.1 every time. And I can't say because we were 8.1 the budget failed, and if we were 9.0 the budget would have passed. I cannot say that. I will say that as the president of the Board of Education, at times over the course of 5 years, you folks around here have elected me president 5 times. I may not agree with every one of your opinions, but I'll respect every one of your opinions. And if we're going to go out for something with a budget, and I have a 9 board, and I get an 8.1, I'm happy with that. Everybody has an opinion. At least when people vote no, there's a cogent argument why. I respect that. That's all I have to say. If anybody else wants to comment on that.
I would like to say something, since of course that was directed at me as usual with you, Mr. Syak. However, before I got on this board, and however long you've been on this board, 15 years, the budgets did fail, year after year after year. And to say that those were all good budgets because 9 people stood behind it would just not be factual. When I started here, these buildings were in major, major disrepair, something that this board, the newer board, has actually pushed through to fix. The budgets continually fail there. It's not relevant to the vote on this board because the board has been unanimous many times and the budget still fails. The problem is, Mr. Syak, is when the opinion is not yours, you just have a problem accepting it if somebody else's opinion is different. And I think that you need to learn to respect other people's opinions and that we are not always going to agree. And we come from different areas and we come from different opinions. And everybody is entitled to their own opinion. That's why it is a democracy. And that's why there are 9 board members. And that's why we're elected.
Next. Anyone else on the board on the comments? Okay. If not, I will open up to the public for any question or comments that may come before the board. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. State your name and address for the record. We have to have you come up and photograph you and all that kind of stuff.
I'm a former student of Miss Sutherland, so just wanted to say thank you to her. My name is Janice Gonzalez. I have a very simple question. Kindergarten will be full day?
Yes.
Thank you. That was it.
Yes, it will. And that's something the board was interested in maintaining, and we're very fortunate we were able to do that, as well as the courtesy busing from K through 5. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Pinto. Mrs. Pinto. Are you going to yell at us again?
Beth, move up closer. You're taking too much time.
She's got little feet.
So with courtesy busing is staying, what is the 210 for transportation?
Mr. DeAndre, you want to talk about the difference in the contract?
Part of it is on the agenda this evening. That's from aggressively negotiating routes that we anticipated increases, which a number of them came in at 0, and also by the recent bid opening that the board will approve at the next meeting. We saw an estimate, the bids came in lower than what we estimated. And additionally, $60,000 was for elimination of late buses in the district that the board will discuss further before next year.
Okay, and now the salary decreases in the teachers, that's by attrition. However, so let's say, there's teachers that retire. Those teachers will not be replaced?
Not necessarily. You want to address that, Dr. O'Connell?
What we'll do, Beth, is we're going to take a look at, we may have enough of money with breakage. So what that basically means is if somebody retires at 80,000 and we hire somebody at 45, it appears that we may get a lot of that. Yes, there may be, like you said, we might not backfill a position. We're really trying to keep all the academic major subjects where they're at right now. We may look at a special education because we're sort of consolidating some of the positions. We may be able to not replace one. So we're in pretty good shape. I think we're going to be okay. And we're going to look very closely at breakage. We're going to look, the great thing is that there's no replacing a guidance counselor. There's no replacing unfortunately that was defined in the cut. And the supervisor and or administrator. So those two we will not replace because that's defined. The others is latitude in what we can do. Our goal is, and I think all the administrators and the supervisors need to be commended because we all really sat down and said, what was our major goal? And I keep saying this, our major goal is to keep our class sizes and our personnel and our staff certified and non-certified to the levels of what they are right now. And again, I have to commend everybody because this was a team effort. We really worked very hard. And you look around you. I mean, I could just go through this county. They got slaughtered. Union City, 450 people. And they're all alive.
Yeah, because I think parents are very happy that the non-tenures are staying because there's very many talented non-tenures.
We are not, no. Understand one thing. 99% of those people will be rehired, 95%. there is a certain percentage that we do not hire every year based on performance. But still, we were very diligent about making sure if we had, I don't know what the number was, Mr. McEnroe, 450 or whatever it was, we're going to try to keep that number. But we still have, there's a lot of things in the budget that we have to make up from the first set of cuts, which I'm going back 4 months ago, to this last set of cuts. Remember, guys, we lost $5.5 million over the last 3 months in cuts. You don't make that up easily. And in all due respect, we have to be very careful, like Mr. DeAndre said, next year we got to make $2.8 million on the surplus. So we have to be very, very careful. And I'm not sure we're going to make the $145,000 in breakage from insurance. Our insurance costs are going through the roof. And everybody knows they're going anywhere from 28 to 33% higher. So you're talking about, I don't think we're making that 145. I'm sorry. They put that in, but that's a cost I don't think we're going to make. So we have to be careful what we do. And we're going to be very diligent that we don't get killed next year. See, it's residual costs that we're very much afraid of, that we don't want to get killed in the preceding years to follow.
So Ben, what you need to do is from a PTO perspective, is all these folks that are out there that are grateful that courtesy busing wasn't canceled and full day kindergarten, get out there and vote. Even the numbers this year, although they were higher, they were still, it's still pathetic for the number of registered voters in this town.
But like Carla Hills, what else can we do? What else can we do, Carla?
I wish I had the answer, Beth.
We've
I
done
wish I
all
had
that
the
we could.
answer.
Well, you just keep plugging, and hopefully it'll pass.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? If not, the Yankees are up by 2 in the third, so
I move we adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody, for coming.